Paul Kennedy, how we doing, brother?
Doing well, Theo. Thanks for having me here today.
It's a pleasure to have you, and a warm welcome, both literally and metaphorically, because you've just got off a plane from Northern Ireland, right?
Yeah. Northern Ireland, Belfast. Came from Dublin Airport. It was raining.
Yeah. Well, before we get into it, I just want to take a moment to introduce you, Paul. 10 years in the marketing industry now, the past 5 of which have been geared towards building what your company is, which is Lifelike Media, alongside your brother. So you're the co-founder. And over the years, you've been able to build quite an impressive portfolio of clients. You're a creative agency who help D2C brands scale to 7 and 8 figures and beyond. And some of the clients you've helped are Lamborghini, JD, Lumi, London Nootropics, Tyson Fury, Tommy Fury, Floyd Mayweather. I mean, the list really does go on. Did I say Lamborghini?
You say Lamborghini, but it's Lamborghini Wines. Don't let anyone confuse you there.
Lamborghini Wines.
That's the trick, yeah.
So, really, really impressive portfolio there, if I do say so myself, and hopefully you think so as well. But I know you're a man geared towards growing all the time, so I'd imagine you've got quite big ambitions. But it didn't always start that way, right? I think like most businesses, if I understand correctly, you started shooting content in nightclubs.
Yeah.
So maybe you could tell us a little bit about that and how you've gone from nightclubs to Lamborghini Wines.
Yeah. Well, it's a progression, like everything in life. So good intro. That's it. My company is in the creative space, but I've always been a creative. Going even before business, I was like shooting travel videos when I was away. Like I had the first GoPro, or like one of the first, and that was just like something I had an interest in. Even before that, I was shooting videos with my dad's big camcorder of us like skateboarding at 10 years old. So I feel like I just had that in me. And then whenever I went traveling, came back, noticed there was a gap in the market for like interesting nightlife content, because I had a good foothold in the nightlife industry, and started doing that and ended up setting up my own events company. So did that with a partner for a while. Really good fun, good money, good crack, but didn't love nightlife. But still, the way we were able to grow that was from just making class videos. It was actually Snapchat and Facebook early days. And people had seen our parties and seen what we got up to. And that's how that grew. So I then just took that into the venues themselves. The venues were going, how have you filled a Wednesday night? I was like, well, we just did like Snapchat videos and Facebook videos and promo videos. Like, oh, can you do that for us? So we just built those videos for the venues, the bars and the nightclubs. And then we would send it over to them. But what would end up happening was they would just waste the video. They would waste the creativity and the energy that we'd put into it. And they would post it maybe one time on Facebook and it would never get seen. So, a few months of us just producing videos and then them just not getting any views, we realized that we needed to control the distribution. And we needed to show these guys how to use social media. And that started that whole trajectory, and that, slowly pivoting through into, it was actually boosting the posts back then cutting them up into like one video, cutting it into like 10 videos, boosting every single one. And then eventually we took a course on how to learn paid ads. And I'm jumping in now timelines here, but Jack, my brother, co-founder, he was traveling at the minute. So he was in China. And I remember the pivotal moment where I started to scale this thing and I had clients coming to me and the paid ads thing was taking off. I remember just sending them a voice note when I was out for a walk. I was like, mate, you need to get back. Yeah. Something's kicking off here. Not exactly sure what direction it's going because I'm working with dentists and I'm working with bars, right? And I'm doing video and I'm doing ads, but something's happening. Yeah. Come back and we'll kick this thing off. So he did. He came back, put him through Jordan Platten's Affluent Academy course, if you're familiar.
I know the one, yeah.
Yeah, and he started being, the fulfillment on the ad side. We hired a videographer to help us on the video side, and I just became like business development, and that's our humble beginnings, really.
Yeah, I love it. I know that probably happened over the space of maybe a couple of years or so. So I appreciate the quick overview. I think one of the things I take away most from that in business is you need to try and control as many variables as you can. It gets difficult because then you feel like you're micromanaging everything and you want to stay in your niche and be specific at what you do. But like what you just said, you could be making killer content and passing it over to the client, and then, like you say, they're just posting it once, and there's a huge gap there that's missing, which is actually how to get that content in front of the right people. I was speaking to a prospect earlier, and they had an amazing brand in Australia, and they produce tons of content, but they don't know what to do with it or how to grow with the content apart from organically. So we find we're often able to help people that have good content or work with people like yourself, and we can then utilize that content. But the only reason I wanted to say that was because a lot of people might be trying to build a business and they're unable to control all the variables and just doing their bit, and they might feel as though what they're doing isn't working. But actually maybe it's a different variable which is preventing the growth of what they're doing, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And that's obviously something that you identified.
Yeah, and like staying on that point, like if I had tried to be a videographer, I would not have made it because I'm actually not a very good videographer, honestly. And I'm self-aware enough to know that. And I was self-aware enough to know that I needed to hire someone better than me. I loved it and I was good at it, obviously. Like I spent enough time and enough reps, but I wasn't the best. So if I had just pursued videography as a career, I would probably be somewhere mid-low. But the fact that my natural ability and like being an entrepreneur was I could build a company, and I was a marketer first. A large part of that story I've missed out was I was working with Yik Yak. I was one of the first UK employees where we took that app around UK and Ireland, and I understood how the Americans were marketing for growth. And this company was valued at $450 million at one point. So they were doing it real with all their social media. So I was basically just taking what was happening in America and implementing it in Belfast where like nobody knew anything. So it was being able to step away and go, I'm actually not the best videographer, but I can build a business here. And your problem isn't that you don't have good videos. It's that they're not getting distributed correctly. I can help you distribute them and create them. And that's what formed a good service-based business.
Yeah, I think it's just being self-aware, isn't it? You need to understand what your strengths and weaknesses are, and also understand if you are building a business, what you need help on. Yeah. And I think it's quite funny actually, because I naively started a marketing agency thinking that I'll just do ads, like you just sit in the ad account, but like where's the business coming from? Like I'd never done sales before, and then all of a sudden I'm like, oh, we need to start scripting cold emails and do cold calls and do all this other stuff. So I think that's also the funny thing when you start a business is you definitely need to be self-aware, and at the start you kind of need to be good at everything, or at least try to be, to get it off the ground. And then when you can afford to do so, what a lot of people say, and something that I resonate with, is try and hire people like better than yourselves or specialists at what they do. So you mentioned that you weren't a very good, or you don't think you're the best videographer. Is that now what your brother does, Jack, or have you got?
No, so this is the confusing part. There's two Jacks in our company.
Okay.
So our first hire was also a guy, Jack Hanna, and he's amazing. He's been with us since the start. So he's the video man and the media man. So he manages our whole media team. And then Jack's operations. Jack just sits, like no one really knows him that well because he's not the front face of the business, but he actually is the business. He's operating it. I don't even know what he does every single day. Do you know what I mean? It's that level. But it just runs. So it's, the self-awareness is huge, and hiring the A players, I think you touched on that, is the most important thing, because an A player and that mentality brings everyone up in the company. There's a really good resource or a good book called Who Not How, if you've ever heard of it. Dan Sullivan, great book about hiring, because hiring is a weakness of mine. It's a bleeding challenge. It's like, it's such a difficult thing because it's not something you do loads of times. Like you can shoot 100 videos, but you're not going to hire 100 people. So you don't have loads of reps. So you don't have loads of feedback. So you have to go and look for resources to hire. And for me, it's like a chore. That's like a process that I don't want to do. I'd love to just click my fingers and have a champion in the company. Yeah. But that's not reality.
Yeah, it's difficult. I was going to ask how you go about hiring, whether or not I don't know that I've ever read any resources on it, but I got mentoring from James Vogel, a mutual guy between the both of us. Yeah, shout out to James. And he really helped us build like a solid hiring funnel. I was
going to mention hiring funnel if you'd asked me. Yeah. I learned about hiring funnel from another guy, Ravi Abuvala, Scaling with Systems, but it's the same as an acquiring a customer acquisition funnel, you have to have a talent acquisition funnel. So always be hiring is the phrase. Every time we're doing something interesting in our company, we're very good at documenting behind the scenes and shoots and the things that we're doing by the nature of being a media company. So we're always just throwing that link. You know, want to work with us, sign up here. So we're always getting portfolios. But that's really great for, let's say, I'm not saying this in a negative way, but let's say mid-level talent who are the technicians. That's a really good way of finding technicians who are going to operate for you on the field. But it's much harder than, again, in my experience, to use that strategy to get, you know, like a COO or something, or like a high-level employee. I think those guys, the real talent, are not out looking for jobs. So you sort of maybe have to start looking at who's the best in the industry and creating an offer that's going to maybe make them turn their head and come to you, which is something that we're in the process of doing now, but it's difficult.
When you say you're in the process of doing that now, you mean acquiring someone of that stature, or trying to become appealing to them sort of people? I
think we're trying to build an offer that's going to be appealing for like a higher level, like a C-suite level employee. Because again, for context, in Belfast, really good talent is underpriced, and I think we need to utilise that. Whereas you go to London or something like that, you could be paying over £100,000 for someone in that position, but in Belfast you could be paying 50. So we're at that point now, and we're taking advice from, you know, we have a CFO as well, and he's kind of helping us put together what would be a right package for someone like that, and then get ready to actually present that. But we are actively, you know, hiring. We have LinkedIn going on, but we're ready to come in with like a big right hook here.
Yeah, definitely. You've got quite, well, from the outside, it looks like quite an exciting company to work at, and I think you've done a good job of building a team culture, and maybe we can talk on some of the things that you did to instill that. But what I was going to say was, before we get into that, do you also think there's maybe a personal branding element that comes into attracting the right person? Because that was kind of a theme I've picked up from, I quote Justin Waller on this one, because he said since putting out his content and almost building a personal brand and just being authentic and showing people who he is, it's been so much easier to hire, because these people are coming to him, they agree with his morals and his principles, and they genuinely want to work with him. So I wonder if that's something that could be utilised when trying to attract the right people, like regardless of whether it's for Lifelike Media, attract them to want to work with you or be surrounded by you, and then working with the brand just comes naturally.
Yeah, well, that authenticity that you mentioned is key, because you can put a facade forward on social and be like, oh, we're the best company to work with, like all we do is have so much fun. And then you hire someone, and if they are an A player, they're not going to stick around if that environment isn't true. Either they'll get poached or they'll realize it's not for them and they'll move on. So it's one thing to get them in through the door, you got to keep them as well. It's like, again, just like clients. So my personal brand, I haven't really thought of it as building a personal brand to bring people into the company, but my personal brand is definitely secondary to the Lifelike Media brand, because that's where all of our focus and attention is going with the content. You know, my value style videos is coming on that page rather than my personal page. And, you know, the BTS, going to Thailand with Tyson, doing all that stuff in Dubai, like doing the fun, like, activities, which is byproduct of being a creative agency, all gets posted on that page, and that does attract people. But we also show that we're a bootstrapped agency. Like the desks that fill our offices, like they were nicked, you know, the chairs were borrowed, you know, like we built that from a spare, like just a room, and built it upwards, and we're proud of that, and we kind of lean into it. And you can see, if you follow us and you follow our stories, there's nuances and there's jokes throughout it, leaning back to that, because we are authentic. We're definitely not one of the big players. We're not a big media house. We're a nitty gritty, like Wild West social media e-com agency who understands how to make sales with content, and we do just that one thing. And you want to join us, and we can do that together. But we're not trying to pretend that we're some big company, you know. So I think that's important, because, like I say, you'll lose talent if you bring them in under false pretenses.
100%. I think, yeah, whether it be from a client perspective or from a hiring perspective, I think being authentic is the best way, because you're going to get discovered sooner or later. So better to be your authentic self and keep it the Wild West. If anything, that sounds a bit more like an exciting place to work anyway.
Yeah, it is. It's good. Like, and to your point about culture, like I can go down that, but that is native. Like that's just natural because it is like that. Like I sit at the same desk as all of our employees. Like I don't have my own office, and I didn't think about that at all until we do our 90-day performance reviews. One of our employees brought that up to me. She came from HR background and a big company. She's like, you're like sitting right there beside me at the desk. You know, that doesn't normally happen, which I wasn't aware of. I've never been part of a company like that before. So the fact that you have your leaders at the same table as like your technicians, and the simple things that are just part of our culture, like at lunchtime we do this little challenge where you take the putter and the golf ball and it's closest to the pin. Whoever's furthest from the pin ends up doing the dishes at the end of the day. And it's just those little challenges, those little bits of fun, and they get, you know, we put that on our stories, and those little micro things that doesn't seem big, but it's important. And then you also have your big swings, like, okay, we're going, we call them away days. So maybe we're in Manchester with Tommy, maybe we're down in London, maybe we're in Abu Dhabi, maybe we're in Miami, Texas. Like we do get to travel. Yeah. And obviously we document that as well, you know? Yeah,
you've got to. Well, I think that's the difference between a media house, like you described it, and then I wouldn't even call you guys bootstrapped, but it's the way you described yourselves. So a media house and bootstrapped, if someone has come from a corporate environment and then they are seeing you guys all sitting down together, you know, putting balls ahead of lunchtime to see who cleans the dishes. These are all fun things that, like you say, it comes naturally to you. But someone coming from a more corporate business, they're not going to recognise these things. It's going to seem a little bit left field, or however you describe it. So I think that's fun, it's quirky, it's interesting, and maybe those intricacies are what would actually make it more appealing for someone to want to work for you. And I think it's good that you're kind of publicising those things, because it's sort of saying, look, we are different, we're not afraid to do what we want to do the way we want to do it, and you've been able to build a very successful brand by doing that. So I think that's great. The only thing I would challenge is, you said you sit with everyone else. I saw in your story the other day you were in another room with some red light therapy going on. So
that was me. So you'll relate to this. So like there's moments where you just need to sit with your thoughts and just scroll, like, and we openly allow that, where it's like there's a couple of micro rules, like don't eat at your desk. If you want to take a break, you want to take some food, like no one's going to challenge you to sit. If you want to stand up, there is a breakaway room, go there. In that video you're referring to, you know, that's the studio, that's the other side. We're getting a lot of decoration done, so all the products being moved out. One of our clients owns a red light therapy, and I just stuck it on there, and I was just scrolling for a wee bit, you know, just chilling, just gathering my thoughts, you know.
It is important. I think it's really, really important, and it's something you touched on the other podcast. You said each day you wake up very early and you'll use like a 2-hour work block straight away after a cup of coffee to get your most important things done, because when you are at work, or, you know, as your day gets on, your mind gets more and more clouded with, I don't know how to describe it, I guess brain fog.
Yeah, decision fatigue, I call it.
I mean, I can imagine you, the end of the day, you feel a bit like me. You're just like, oh, all right, I need to unwind now. I need to hit the gym. I need to just kind of hit that reset button. So I think it is really important to take time out of your day. And like I said to you out there, you know, I took a half hour this morning sort of thinking about what we might talk about and some of the things that I kind of wanted to bring up. I think it's worth also mentioning, this is obviously our first time meeting in person as well. Yeah. I met you once, about 3 or 4 months ago, I think it was, just before Christmas, on a video call. And seeing as we're kind of touching now on red light therapy and fitness and routine, at that time you were doing a challenge called 75 Hard, which I don't understand all of it. It was 2 workouts a day, certain amount of water a day, reading a certain number of pages a book per day, was it?
Yeah, 10 pages, 4 litres of water, strict diet. So you set your diet intentions, you stick to that. Yeah, 2 workouts. 1 must be outside. And it must be at least 45 minutes. And then 75 days, no misses. So, and a progress pic every day. So that was the challenge. A few of us in the office did it. I think there was about 5 of us total. And yeah, it was great. I enjoyed it.
So that's another thing. You've got the team involved again. Yeah. So there's no escaping it. They're kind of integrated into your way of thinking and your mentality. And another thing I don't think a big company would do either. I mean, can't imagine they'd be getting everyone doing a 75 hard challenge.
Yeah.
They'd probably be more focused on work and KPIs and deadlines and all this kind of stuff. But actually, I'd argue like taking part in a challenge like that together would probably be one of the best ways to bond, do something difficult, enjoy the process, and all benefit from it with regards to health and mindset as well.
Yeah.
You know?
And that is one of them. Like, and there was no pressure for anyone to do that. It was just something that, you know, a few of us were doing, me and Jack, and then another guy joined us as well. And then to your point on that, when we did the Lumi therapy shoot up in Manchester, at the end of the shoot, we all got in the ice bath, like one by one. So the owner of the company was like guiding us through, telling us all the benefits. And Tommy Fury was there and he was doing it as well. So we had this incredible moment. There's 4 of us did it from our company. And then we're like, you know, we'll take this back and we'll bring this in and we'll do like this ice bath challenge. So it hasn't happened yet, right? But I'm determined to get every single person in the office either to do a sea dip or an ice bath. Now, there's been a few excuses and there's some internal politics going on at the minute by people, you know, being sick or things happening that they couldn't make it in that day. So we'll see what happens. But I say, keep an eye out in the stories. You might see our whole team in the sea at once. So
the whole office will be buzzing. I mean, you mentioned it previously, so I'm going to quote you on this one, but an ice bath actually increases your dopamine levels by 250%, right?
Yeah, well, that was Gavin, owner of Lumi Therapy, told me that.
Yeah.
And then, did you hear the other part of that quote?
For 3 to 4 hours,
yeah,
right? So if you can get everyone doing one of them in the morning, I think productivity is going to go either that or you're just going to be talking a lot.
Yeah, that's it. And that's the thing with those environments. You know, a lot of people, especially in our industry, they either have, they'll have the remote workers and they like that because they can travel, but you get a lot of energy from your team. It can be distracting at times, but the small moments of distraction is a small price to pay for like the mass amount of energy that you get from having people like right beside you working on the same project creatively. And yeah, if we can do extra things like the odd ice bath, every quarter we do something as a team that's just go-karting or a bit of a party or to a local pub we like to go to, like those kinds of things helps bring you together and have a good bit of crack. But yeah, ice bath, I rate it. I'd like to see more companies do that.
Yeah, for sure. Funny enough, I actually was looking to buy one. I'm not going to digress too much, but if you looked on my phone searches, it says ice bath to buy, or seeing if there's one nearby where I can get involved, because I used to really enjoy them. I read the Wim Hof book, and like I said, I don't want to digress too much, but read the book, and he talks about how it can reduce your resting heart rate quite significantly. So I started doing the ice baths, and at that time it was winter in the UK, so if I cranked it round to the cold, it really was like it was icy, especially because where I was living in the UK was literally a stone's throw away from the beach, so it was just really, really cold. Here in Dubai I try and do that, it's like lukewarm at best. I'm like, no,
the cold shower is like warm.
This isn't quite cutting it. But what I did want to touch on is a few things, because we've talked about your business, not in massive depth, but how you've kind of some of your journey that you've been on. We also talked on how you've built a team, attracting A players, fitness. What I wanted to touch on more is your routine. Like, what does a day in the life of Paul Kennedy look like? So you've got your coffee in the morning, your 2-hour work block, and then how do you incorporate fitness into your day around work? It sounds like you just bring it to the office and get everyone involved, which is great. But
not really.
What does it look like?
Well, it's funny. So after 75 hard, where you're so dialed into that routine, I kind of fell off a little bit over Christmas, which is to be expected. And then coming into the new year, I was like, right, I need something to work towards that's going to keep me focused. So we signed up for a High Rocks. Have you seen this High Rocks trend? Yeah. So doing one of those in April in Berlin. So now I have something to work towards, that it's much easier to stay focused in a routine, because if you don't have that goal, it becomes very, very difficult. So yeah, like you said, first thing in the morning, I'll wake up 6 a.m., have my coffee whilst doing unreactive work. So nothing to do with clients, nothing to do with team, something that I need to build or that I want to work on. I can do that undistracted. Sometimes my girlfriend will get up with me and she'll do a bit of work as well. She's also an entrepreneur, which is really, really nice. And we'll have a coffee together. And then a bit of breakfast maybe in the office. 9 a.m. in the office, and I just work through until 5 or 6. So one of the things I'd set for myself to do was to take a longer lunch and train at lunchtime, because like, remember we talked about like you're fatigued at the end of the day. I was finding it hard to train at the end of the day, but I managed to do one session at lunch and I wasn't able to switch off from work. I wasn't able to stop looking at my phone. I wasn't able to think I could be doing this right now. So I ended up sacking that off, and now I just train after work. And I'll follow a program. I have a coach, and he's got a very strict program, very cardio focused, very difficult. So I'll just get that done. And then in the evening, again, I try not to work. Me and the missus, we try not to talk too much about work and just talk about, you know, personal stuff and our plans in our life. But it becomes very hard when you got two entrepreneurs that are both driven. Have some dinner, and I am very strict. 10 a.m. switch off. You know, if Rebecca wants to show me a funny video on TikTok, I was like, no, don't even look, don't show me it. I don't want the blue light in my face. Get it away. That's
me, but with my blue light blockers on as well.
Yeah. I got some. They live in the office too. And my phone sits on the other side of the room on a little charger. Because when the alarm goes off, you have to get up, turn it off, and that's you up then, isn't it?
Yeah. No, I appreciate you sharing that with me. And I think we're quite alike in some ways. And I think, I say me and you, I think it's the same for a lot of people. You really need a goal to be working towards to keep yourself accountable, whether that be with a coach or whether you be working towards something like High Rocks, because otherwise it's so easy to just go, I'll just go tomorrow, or I'll just do this. But if you've got a coach there telling you, no, this is your plan, you need to stick to that plan, and there's cardio and things like that you don't. Do you know what I find with cardio is, in my head, I don't really ever enjoy it, but or want to do it. I'm never like, oh yeah, I really want to go for a run, but as soon as I start, I'm like, I feel amazing.
Yeah.
You know, you start regulating your breathing. Those first few minutes are hard, but when you get in a good rhythm, I really like it, because in the apartment we're at the moment, there's a mirror right in front of the treadmill, and I'm just mad. I'm just staring myself down while I'm running, thinking of all these David Goggins quotes in my head. Just giving, like, it's 15 minutes of just me looking at me while I'm running, setting that tempo up. I'm looking down at it, and I'm like, no, there's more, up the speed, and I really enjoy it. After that run, I feel great. In
the moment, I can't relate. I don't enjoy it.
You don't.
It's hard, like, and it's a slog. But I think I was listening to a podcast, and it was Ross Edgley. He's like, focusing on this like stoicism mindset, where it's like being present in the pain. It's like, this is sore, this is hard, no one's denying that. So don't try and trick yourself out of it, but just know that every rep, every like step, every run, you're closer to the end. So you know that the end is coming, but you're also present in the pain. And whenever I figured that out, I was like, this is probably the mindset I need to take with it. But because it's not even just, okay, the runs are difficult enough for me personally, but it's the WODs, you know, like every minute on the minute, like all that carry on with the rowing and the farmers walks and the wall balls, like all that High Rocks kind of thing. It's not the way I'm usually training, so it's definitely a challenge.
Yeah.
But a couple of other nuances I just left out that I just remembered there, because we talked about ice bath. Like, after every gym session, I'll have a sauna. In my gym there's a sauna, and that also gets me through it, knowing that the sauna is, you know, 5 kilometers away. And I get to look forward to that. It's almost like a reward at the other end of the pain.
I think with the workouts, what I often remind myself is it's meant to be hard. And if it's not, then I don't feel like I'm pushing myself enough. But what's nice to see, and I see it most with running, but you'd also see it with training for something like High Rocks, which is CrossFit led, right? Yeah,
it's like a race, like a running race with those like stations, like wall balls and sled pushes and that.
Is when you're doing these workouts, well, I was going to say, I'd imagine they get a little bit easier each time, but maybe they don't. I see it definitely with running, because you can tell based on your time and your speed. And once you start really pushing it with running, and then you take a step back and do more of like a steady pace, and your breathing's on point, it's easy. I think I had so much more to give there. So I like running because you see it in that sense. Gym, you see you get that little bit stronger each week, or you get a few more reps out and you get that progressive overload. And I think it's the same with all things at life, with business, with gym. You just want that steady progression, and that's enough for me to kind of keep me going. So you mentioned about setting goals, and you've got things like High Rocks, you've got things like, you know, your coach. These are all goals outside of business. Have you got any business goals that you could maybe share? I'd imagine some of them might be, you know, personal, or maybe you don't want to share them, which is fine. But I know you're quite big on manifesting. Now, I don't want to digress too much, but I thought it was crazy to hear that you actually ended up in a coma for 3 days from a rugby accident, and you were told that you were going to be in hospital for months. But rather than accept that, you spent every moment you had spare manifesting on healing your broken legs and other parts of your body. And did you make it out of the hospital much, much quicker than that after that?
Yeah, so I was a car accident. I was actually a pedestrian. I got hit by a car. It's pretty bad. So yeah, I was in a coma.
Oh, car accident. Sorry, why did I think I thought it was rugby.
I do play rugby. So maybe you just got wires crossed, but no, it's
Apologies.
Okay. The accident was it was like a pivotal moment. I don't normally talk about it too much just because it is a good story. I'll probably write a book about it someday, but that moment, I was like in the early stage of my entrepreneurship career. And when I woke up from the coma, so I got hit on the Monday, woke up on the Wednesday, and I realized like what had happened. But I had this mindset where I was like, I'm too busy. Like I can't be here. Like I have momentum. But what I did was I laid out a plan. Yeah, they'd said I wasn't going to be able to leave the hospital before Christmas. This was in the end of November. But I was like, I wasn't going to accept that. I understood you can't really heal in hospital. They patch you up in hospital, but I needed to get home to heal properly, spiritually, mentally, physically. So I just created basically a 10-day plan. What can I do? Sat here, broken legs, hips and low back was pretty twisted, and face was all broken. Had a few surgeries to get still. I said, well, I can touch my toes. Well, nearly. So that was the first step, And I was just like, each of the days I wrote down the thing that I wanted to accomplish. I want to be able to touch my toes. I want to be able to sit up. I want to be able to actually go and use the bathroom myself. I was like day 5, I got up and took the wee Zimmer, and I sat up to get onto the floor. As soon as I put my hands on the Zimmer and I stood up fully, I just collapsed onto the floor, because that's the first time I'd actually stood. So all the blood just like rushed out of my head, and I just hit the deck, and I was like, yeah, okay. Probably gonna have to slow this down a wee bit. But that was a failure. That was a feedback loop. And I was like, okay, well, what's next? Eventually, 10 days later, I was in like seriously good spirits. I was like, right, I'm ready to get out of here. I'm just sitting in this ward. It's not you're not helping me any further. All I had to do was prove to them that I could use stairs on crutches. And I was like, stairs on crutches? That's easy. Like, give me some crutches. Yeah. I was like, get me out of here. I proved to them I could use the stairs, and then I got out. So, but yeah, it was just step by step. Like, what's in my control? What can I do right now that is 100% Paul? Not worrying about surgeries coming, not worrying about this, not worrying about that. And I just chipped away at it, yeah.
I think it comes back to what we said at the start, is what are the variables that you can control? Okay, you're in a hospital bed. There's not a lot what you can do, but you can think positively from your mind. You can manifest the way in which you're going to heal yourself. You can set yourself, again, little goals that you want to set as KPIs, almost like a to-do list. And I'd like to relate that back to my initial question with regards to business goals. Do you treat it in the same way? Is it, okay, this is the plan, these are the things I need to do to get there, and you tackle it in that sense? It might be something other than reaching for your toes. Maybe it's a revenue goal or a particular client, but...
No, yeah, absolutely. Treat it exactly the same. So we do have goals. We have goals, revenue goals, absolutely, profitability goals, team members goals that we want to hit, and like what do we need on the fulfillment in order to achieve X revenue. And it's all laid out, black and white. Like I said before, we have a CFO who helps me map that out. I wouldn't be the best with the numbers as a creative guy, so it's all black and white. X ad spend gets this many leads, gets this many calls. We have a setter and a closer. If they're hitting these percentages, the outcome is inevitable. And if we miss, at what point in the system was the numbers wrong, and we can just reverse engineer, look back and go, oh, it was here. And I've done that for a lot of things in life. So yeah, okay, the leads were short. Why were leads short? Maybe we need to increase ad spend, or increase our social organic, or send a few more emails, whatever it might be. You can just fix that piece and then just let it flood through.
I think it's something we always say as marketers to our clients, is the numbers never lie. We always just rely on the data, and you just need to treat your life the same way. in this instance, we're talking about goals and a particular funnel that you've kind of set up and just analysing the numbers and reviewing the metrics. I think if you truly break it down that way, you can quite quickly, not always, but you can generally kind of identify where the gap is or where you're going wrong. Like you said, leads are down. What does that mean? Okay, well, we'd spent less this month on ads. Well, that's why the leads are down. So if you take that approach, like a logical approach, I think you can always tend to identify what the bottleneck is. And it's funny because I recall going to a mastermind with James Vogel and his business partner Elliot, and they did say that about business. They said after a while, once you've got all the systems up and running, you're building the team, you've got all the processes, you'll just become this bottleneck destroyer where you're just like looking at everything with a magnifying glass and trying to find all the missing gaps in what you're doing and building on those systems. But
I like that, a bottleneck destroyer.
The bottleneck destroyer, yeah.
but there's another side to it. Actually, I'll touch on this really quickly. Because what we're talking about now is all like the tangible and the physical.
Yeah.
And I know you're into the manifestation and we touched on it before, but there's like, in my opinion, there's a spiritual side to it. There's like, you have to be in harmony with your goal. You have to be, you have to resonate with, there's no point in just saying, I want to make 10 million quid.
Yeah.
And it's so surface level because it's not real. You have to really understand why and that has to truly be what you desire. And then there's a lot of little nuances that can help you achieve it. If that was your goal, there's this whole section of the way I believe life lives is manifesting that into existence. There's time in a day where I have to just go back into my mind. Instead of looking at a spreadsheet, I'm looking inwards and I'm going, this is where we are before we're there. This is who I am. This is what I want to become. This is how many team members we have. This is the revenue we're at. I'm just realigning like almost like my frequency. I'm not going to go super like woo woo because I know some people don't resonate with that, but I really truly do. Mm-hmm. Am I in harmony with my goal? Am I on the right frequency to attract and receive what I'm trying to achieve in life? Mm-hmm. And I do feel like I've had enough life experience, multiple businesses, many years traveling the world, meeting many different cultures, and I'm 30 now as well. That I figured out that this is the way for me. It's just as much spiritual as it is a spreadsheet.
Yeah.
But it's sometimes it's hard to explain it the way I feel it. But I guess everyone can hear things in different ways, and eventually something will just click with a different person. Mm-hmm. Maybe it's the Bible, the Quran. Maybe it's mm-hmm. like I'm not religious, but very spiritual. Mm-hmm. Maybe it has to be a particular book for me. Wallace D. Wattles, Science Getting Rich, or Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich. Those kinds of books. Those are the ones that help me go, right, I am trying to achieve something. Leave all business aside. This is what needs to be done in order to achieve those goals from that side of life as well.
I'm really pleased you found that balance because it's very hard to find that, I think. And I would say I'm aligned with you in that sense, in that I don't think I'd ever describe myself as spiritual, but I guess I am. Law of attraction. I think I'm more mindset orientated. Like, yes, these are the things I want to achieve in my business. These are the things I want to achieve personally. And more often than not, they overlap because if you're spending, I was going to say, 8 hours a day, it's probably more like 10 or 12. Who knows when you're a business owner, you lose track of time. But you're spending so much time in your business that if you can optimize your business to gear towards your happiness and what you want, then you're meeting both parts. If you're happy in your business, it will normally gear you towards your personal goals. And there was a few things I want to ask, so I don't want to jump about too much, but I wanted to say, do you follow Naval Ravikant at all?
Yeah. And it's what was the book I read? Yeah,
I can't say the word. The amalgamations of...
The Almanac.
That's it, the
Almanac of Naval Ravikant, yeah.
And he does, I think, what you're kind of speaking on, to a degree, which is optimizes his life for happiness. And he's very spiritual. He meditates and, like we said earlier, takes time to think. I think we're so busy in life that often people forget to take time to think, not just looking at the funnel and optimizing the funnel, but also truly looking inwards on yourself and what you want. And the second thing I was going to get onto is, have you heard of a guy called Dr. Joe Dispenza?
Yeah.
Have you read Becoming Supernatural?
I haven't read it, but I've seen a lot of his work, podcasts and that.
So I recently purchased his Mind movie. Are you familiar with what? Not his, sorry, the Mind movie that he talks about in his book. Are you familiar with what it is?
No.
So I used to be really good when I lived in the UK, especially in the summer, of getting up every morning, having a coffee and spending 10 minutes in the garden, just thinking about what I'm grateful for, all the things I enjoy in life, what my goals are, and I would just repeat to myself what I'm working towards and things like that. The Mind movie is a 2 to 3 minute clip that you've created using images of your choice and text overlays of your choice. It's like a slideshow, and you overlay music. I bought it a couple of weeks ago, and I put on there, well, the first slide is I have a steady flow of incoming leads, because at the time me and Joe were really focusing on building out our paid advertising funnel. Now, I'm not saying that's why 2 weeks later we now have leads, but it's just an example. And then it goes on to say about, another example is a picture of all of our clients, and the text is, people want to work with me. And you create your own slides about positive affirmations that you want. There's a picture of me and Martina, and it says, I'm happy. And they're little things which might sound a bit silly to some people, but you're meant to just watch this movie, in the morning and in the evening or throughout the day, right? So before I pick up the phone to cold call, I watch this movie. I have a steady flow of leads. People want to work with me. My business achieves X amount per month. And I get myself into this mindset. I'm like, okay, let's go. Like, it's just this subtle reminder, because it's very easy when you're doing it in your head to forget some days or not do it. But when in the back of your mind, you've got this 2 minute clip to refer back to each day, I found it to be quite useful. As for how much it's helped me, it's too early to say. But this morning I woke up, alarms going off. I'm like, my Mind movie, watching it, and it's telling me, all of the things that I'm working towards and how to get there. And I know that they will all come true. I know they're all achievable. And I guess that's kind of my spiritual side. But I'd maybe recommend trying it.
No, I really like that, because I suppose I do something similar in my own mind. But like the fact that you're like, I know it's going to come true. It's more just a question of when and being able to receive it. So you're saying I have a flow of leads. Yeah. But do you have a funnel to capture the leads? Like, that's the action point. It's not just, I guess a lot of people who maybe grew up or read The Secret, for example, are thinking, oh, this manifestation stuff doesn't work because I don't have the things that I just manifested. Or but you have to build the infrastructure to receive it. Yeah. So if you want leads, you need a funnel. Yeah. Or some other version. But it's the same as myself, the things that I want, I have to position myself in a place to receive it. If I want all this revenue for whatever reason, do I have a team in place to be able to fulfill that? It's just an example, but it's so true. And it's like, I could go down this whole rabbit hole.
Go for it.
But I won't go so deep. But it's like, if you're saying, people want to, like my dream clients, like they want to work with me because I am putting value out, and then they come in, they're also, like other people have goals as well. It's like, I want to grow my business. So the client who wants to grow his business and is so driven and determined to grow his business, and you're so driven and determined to provide value, and the clients want to work with you, like you'll attract each other because of this universal mind. Like we're all connected by this universal mind. So, but it's not like you're one-upping anyone. You're like, oh, I'm getting like $5,000 off this guy. He's like, fuck, I only have to pay $5,000 to grow my business. It's a mutual value exchange. And as long as it is that, you'll both grow and it'll be harmonious. But there's times when, people can just be like greedy or want the money, and it's not a fair value exchange. They're just wanting to get something out of someone for their own gain. But that's what the law of attraction is. Like, you're attracting each other. They have a goal to grow their business. You have a goal to serve, and you meet each other by whatever divine intervention or whatever lead funnel. Do you see what I mean? And I just think if you trust in that, it's like almost impossible to fail in a way. Yeah. You just have to align yourself with it and build the infrastructure, which, by the way, is pretty easy. Watch a YouTube video and figure out how to build a funnel,
Yeah, Buy 100 Million Leads by Alex Hormozy. I've just started listening to that book, and it was amazing because I had the audio book on, and every 2 minutes I'm pausing it, writing down, like building out a lead magnet. And because it's coincidental we're doing it at the exact same time. Well, not coincidental, like that's why I put the book on, but you know what I mean. Yeah. But I think what you said there is really important. Is it's an exchange of value, and I'm going to refer back to Naval again because I'd like to ask you a question. In that, was it called again? Sorry,
The almanac.
The almanac, yeah, such
Will
a
you see
Naval
someone
word.
be like, it's not.
Such a
No, it's the
Naval word.
almanac, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so, something like that. So he also says, and this is basically what you were just touching on there, he says, don't network for the sake of networking. He says, learn your craft, master your craft, and you'll attract the right people. And I think that's kind of what you're saying there is, if you're in a position where you can provide value because you've mastered your craft, you know, just going to this networking lunch or this networking dinner, people think that by networking it simply means they're going to get clients, but maybe they haven't mastered their craft yet. Yeah. Maybe all you need to do is become a master of your craft, and then by some, what did you say, the universe?
Divine intervention.
By some divine intervention.
But it's that second part. It's, okay, master your craft, yeah. You know, manifest it, write it down, whatever, mind movie it. But then go to the event.
Yeah, no,
don't forget
100%.
To go.
No, 100%.
Don't forget to be ready to meet the client. You know.
Yeah, the advice here isn't just rely on divine intervention. It's
someone's gonna fall through your window.
Yeah.
Want to work with me?
It's build the habits, build the inputs, build the skills, provide the value, and then go to the networking lunch.
And then be great.
Yeah.
And serve them well, and then they'll bring you more clients as well. Like a client is also an acquisition machine.
And maybe it'd be a good point to kind of relate that back to your business and some of the clients you've worked with. Like we touched on at the start, you know, Tommy Fury, Lamborghini Wines.
Better, actually, in my opinion.
What's that? Better than Lamborghini? Yeah, of course, of course.
Vineyard in Tuscany.
Yeah.
I'm more about that than cars. But anyway, let's not digress. I'm sorry.
No, but I was going to say, you don't come across as being very materialistic, and maybe that is part of your sort of like spiritual self. You know, you're happy within and don't need these things to make yourself happy. But now I'm just making assumptions. I don't know.
No, I mean, I'm not a car guy. I never was. We drive trucks back home because it's a commercial vehicle. It's financially is better, and that's kind of like. But I love it. I absolutely love that. I would never have bought a truck if it was not a financial reason. You see, but now I'll probably keep that for a while. But you know, I have nice watches. I have a watch collection because I love watches. First watch I ever saw before I even got this business off the ground was my brother-in-law, and it was this exact watch that I'm wearing, believe it or not. And I wore it. It was the first, let's say, it's the first Rolex I'd ever seen in real life. I put it on. I was like, someday I will have this watch. And lo and behold, it's still on my wrist right now. But I didn't just magic there, you know. But I don't buy designer clothes. I'm not really into fashion and clothing because I wear the same thing every day, a white t-shirt or a black t-shirt, you know, whatever one comes out of the closet first, and a pair of Air Force Ones, which I'm wearing right now. So, but a nice pair of clean shoes and a nice watch is enough.
Yeah.
Especially if you're mingling in, you know, more affluent circles, for example. But I'm definitely not materialistic in that way. One of my whys in life, one of my reasons for building a business and trying to be wealthy is for travel and freedom. Travel was like the biggest part of the last few years of my life. I traveled 40 countries. I wanted to do 30 before 30 as a travel challenge. I did 40 before 30. And me and my girlfriend, we have all these destinations we want to go to, all these things that we want to do. And that's one of my reasons for why. It's not, I don't want to buy loads of clothes, but I do want to buy loads of trips. And I would pay for more comfortable seats. I would upgrade my seats before I buy, like, I don't know, a Gucci shirt. But it's just what I want. And it's my authentic self versus what is maybe everyone else in the space doing. You see what I mean? Yeah,
100%. There was one thing I wanted to touch on there when you're talking about watches, which is a really, really nice watch, by the way.
Thank you.
What I did leave out of my mind movie, I think, is slide 3, which is I wear a 41mm Rolex Datejust with a chocolate dial.
Lovely.
So I've got my sights set on that. And
and I know the perfect watch dealer, client and friend of mine.
Oh, really?
Nico Leonard from Pride and Pinion.
Oh, there we go. Nico, reach out.
Yes, sorry, legend.
So, that would be the start of mine. But you've got a collection then. Well, I don't want to digress too much. What I want to do...
We could talk about it after.
Yeah, what I do want to do is just relate it back to the question where possible, which is some of these really big clients that you've worked with. I'm sure you did all of the right inputs clearly to attract those clients and get in front of them. But what was that process? What did that look like? Because you've talked about a paid ad funnel. Is that how you attracted some of these bigger clients, or was it?
Absolutely not. So it's like an 80-20 principle. 80% of our clients are going to be those D2C brands, you know, doing, let's say, in around 100K a month. And we just come in and execute our system for them, which is the creative strategy. You know, we produce the creative and we iterate on that, and that's fine. The 20% is going to be those big brand names, not even Lamborghini Wines, but Stat Sports, where we worked with Harry Kane, Phil Foden, you know, working with Floyd Mayweather, working with Tyson Fury, working with Tommy. That came, all those at that level, that came from us doing a really, really good job at that one thing and then having our name passed off in the industry. So you don't see, you know, those guys clicking on a Facebook ad. And the level of detail, like, let's say, for example, Floyd Mayweather, we were in Dubai a couple of years ago. He was doing a show here. He was fighting Deji. We ran all of their paid ads and hit all the content for them, for the money team. So we were working directly with them, but they don't look at Facebook, right? So how do we even get that? We did previous events in the boxing space that went really, really well. So that one thing that we were doing, the paid ads and the creative, like, oh, that's who we used. And then we got to, no pun intended, throw a hat in the ring, make a proposal, and ended up securing that contract. So that's how it happened. Tyson and Tommy, although they're brothers, two completely different sources. One was he was bringing the protein brand out, and that protein was being created by an entrepreneur who has another D2C brand who we worked on. And when they were producing that, they said, do you know anyone who could do XYZ? I know just the guys, Lifelike Media. Boom. We went over to Manchester and pitched that and secured that contract. Tommy, another source. You know, it's just different sources. But it's by coincidence, if that's a thing, that you know, they're all linked. You know, they happen to be brothers, and we see them all the time.
The universe.
Yeah. The universe.
Yeah. Well, I think we're seeing a bit of a common theme here from this conversation then, which is at its core, master your craft. By all means, do the manifesting, do the habit building, set the goals. These are all really important things, but at its core, be great and be good at what you do. And I think that's something where also kind of passion comes into it. You can be passionate for business. I think you need to really enjoy what you do. I was in a coffee shop over the weekend. Like I said, me and Joe have kind of been building out this ad funnel, and I was just sitting there. I was so fired up. We got the ads running. We had prospecting calls being booked in, and I was just like, oh, I've just got that fire. Like, I'm so excited to do what I'm doing. And I think that's also an important thing. Like, work doesn't even feel like work when you enjoy what you're doing. And I think that's another kind of key takeaway. So be good at what you do, enjoy what you do, understand the process, set the goals, build the habits, and ultimately strive for greatness. Yeah. So would you have anything else to add to that, do you think? Or do you think we've hit the nail on the head there?
You smash it. It's a system. It's a repeatable system, isn't it?
Repeatable system.
So
before we tie this one off, what I'd like to say is, first of all, thank you very much for coming on. Really, really enjoyed this conversation. But also, for people listening, where can they find you? Where can they learn a bit more about you? Maybe there's a D2C brand that wants some ad creatives. Where's the best place to go?
So if you want to work with us, you can check us out. Lifelike.media is our website. Our socials is Lifelike Media on Instagram. We're starting to produce a lot more YouTube content. So all the stories I tell, you know, working with these guys, and we're turning those into vlogs. We're actually going to be out in Saudi here with Tyson when he fights Usyk, which will be huge. So you'll start to be able to see that kind of content. That'll be on YouTube. My own personal is paul.belfast on Instagram, where I sort of show a little bit more about what I'm doing. I'm going to try and do that more. But yeah, the Lifelike Media website and our socials, and then my own personal Instagram.
Amazing. What I would say to anyone that's maybe considering reaching out is to do it. Lifelike Media, you're great guys. They've got to see a bit of your personality. Yeah. Maybe what they've not seen is the brand, but they can check that out on the website, on your Instagram, and the portfolio of your client the portfolio of clients that you've worked with, I think, speaks for itself. So on that note, Paul, thank you very much for coming down. It's been an absolute pleasure, and take care.
Yeah, thanks so much. Thank you. Appreciate it.